Alright folks, we're just gonna do a very simple two variable linear programming problem in Excel, and so hopefully this should be relatively straightforward to follow. So kind of doing this from a blank spreadsheet, but what I would do is that I will put a download link in the description below to download a general template that you can use. So we'll start with the variables. And then note here that we have x1 and x2. You might want to use like x and y instead, but I'm just going to do x1 and then x2 like that. And then the next thing I'm going to have is the objective function. And I'm just going to type it out just to kind of make it easier. And then there's going to be the z value as well. So just to really give the names out. So the objective function is that I'm just typing out here. So that's going to be max 3x1 plus 5x2. But for the z value specifically, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put in a formula. So to put in formulas in Excel, you start with an equals. And then now I'm actually going to do, oh, sorry. One thing I completely forgot that I'll just move that down a bit. For the variables, we're going to put the numbers underneath them in the next cell. But what we're going to do is that we're going to set those variables to 0 first. And then in the objective function under the z value z value is when we're actually going to put the actual Excel formula. So we start with the equals, and then we're going to do the 3x1, but instead of x1, we're actually going to do the cell instead. So this could be 3 times b3 plus 5 times c3, and then that's going to equal 0. What's actually going to happen is that when we do the solver, these numbers are going to change. So, but we still have to put in the whole program first. So the next bit is the constraints, and so the constraints is that we're kind of doing it in the general form where we have coefficients like say a or b. Some examples you'll see a or b. Other examples like I might put a1, a2, and so on. And the main idea of the constraints in this case is that because we've only got two variables, and then we want, and then, so we got a b, and then so that's going to be a times, and we're just typing out the formula here just to make it easier to follow. B times x2. Now you notice that when we put a LP into the canonical form, you can kind of see like a grid-like structure, and then that's effectively what we're trying to do here. So to kind of make that a bit clearer, so and then actually no, let me type out the rest, and then that's going to be the right hand side. And then in here is going to be, so the way we type out the constraints in this manner is that we're going to look at the coefficients. So 2x1, 3x2, so the coefficients will be 2 and 3. So under a and b, which are going to be our coefficients, we're going to type 2 and 3, and then we're going to do the less than or equals to, just as typing it as it is. And then on the right hand side, we're just going to put those numbers here. That's 12. Now, the thing with this column is that we're going to do the formula again, and why we do that you'll eventually see. So it's going to be 2, and then there's going to be times one of our x1 variable is, but what we're going to do instead of what we're going to do instead is we're going to put dollar signs on the variables, and we'll see what happens. So if you don't know what they do, then you will soon enough find out. So C6 times and then x2. We're going to put dollar signs on those. And then, so it's going to be 0, but it's going to be referring to those cells. So we're going to do the same with the other constraints. So that's going to be 3 and 4, 3 and 4. Now, what we're going to do is that, which is one of the handy features of Excel, is that we're going to click this little square in the bottom right, and we're just going to drag it down. Now, what happens is that if you look in the formula bar up here, if you look in the formula bar as I switch between them, you'll see the B6 is changing to B7, but the B3 and C3 are remaining the same. So if you didn't know that's what the dollar sign does, it kind of freezes the reference so that it doesn't change when you do the little draggy thingy, whatever you want to call it. So let's spell out the rest of the constraints. It's going to be greater than or equal to 6. And there we have our two variable LP kind of just really all set up in Excel. So the next step is to use the solver. So you've got file, and then under data, assuming you've got the solver program installed, you've got solver up here. So we're going to pull the solver up, and I'm just going to kind of put this underneath here. Now it says set the objective, so that means the objective function is going to be specifically what is in this z value here. And then to double check that we want to maximize, so we want to make sure that we selected maximize here. And it says by changing variable cells. So the variable cells are specifically our decision variables. So basically what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to click, if you click on them separately, then you'll notice you only refers one. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hold down the control key. I think on Mac is going to be the command key that allows me to select more than one individual cell. So you can see how the reference is actually put down there. Now, the next bit we need to add is the constraints. So I'm going to click on add, and then it's going to do a little thingy. So what I want to do now is that the cell reference, I want to pick the cell reference that contains the formula. So if you remember these two are the cells that we added the formula before, and then we're just going to follow, we're going to do this. We're going to follow the sign, and then the constraint is going to be is less than or equal to 12. So we're going to add that, and then cell reference, and then this is going to be greater than or equal, then the constraint is going to be 6. And then that's all the constraints we've done, so we can click OK. But if you accidentally click add again, and then you try to click OK, it's going to give you an error. So you can just click cancel, and then you will get your constraints from there. So moving this to the side now, leave these ticks make unconstrained variables non-negative. That means it's basically saying that we want to make sure all the variables are greater than or equal to 0, which is kind of a default, and that will save us actually having to type it in. Now, there's a few different solvers here. We want to choose Simplex LP because we know that we are dealing with the linear program. After that, click solve, and then you'll see what you'll see happen is that you'll see those numbers have changed. And then you will pop up a little window where you say solvers found a solution, all constraints and optimality conditions are satisfied. And so that's just basically it for the solver. It will give you the solution right within the variable cells. And then there's a few extra things we can add, but we will look at them later. So if you want to keep the numbers, you can click OK. So we do that, and then we've got our optimal solution. So it turns out that we want x1 to be equal to 0, we want x2 to be equal to 4, and that will give us a z value of 20, and then we can actually compare each of these, and we can see that this constraint may equal, and then this one has exceeded it by a certain amount. So that's how to do it for a relatively simple LP, for a 2-variable LP, and you could probably extend this to a 3 or 4 variable LP, but when you deal with much larger ones, with lots more variables, we're going to have to use probably 1 or 2 additional special Excel measures. So that will be on the next video. So until then.